Hello. I'm back and today I'm gonna talk about the topic that basically brought this back to life. I'm gonna talk about my ego death. Yeah, ego deaths are not a myth. I thought they were. I thought it was just like a thing that people would joke about, like, oh, it's something that happens to men after they take like mushrooms and then they find themselves and like they have an ego death. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck is that? But no, it's actually really real and it's actually more common than you might think. And well, it happened to me. And I guess if you've been watching my videos, I'm really in tune with my inner workings. I think a lot, I ponder a lot, I question a lot, especially about myself. So you might think like this person that's constantly just like speaking to existence these really positive things or seems really wise or whatever. I'm not. And I've realized I wasn't. So that's where I'm going to start there. I used to think I was this type of person. And every day, ever since I was a child, let's start there. I don't know what was implanted in my brain or what specific prompting event happened for me to like gain this core belief that if I'm not perfect, I am not worthy of anything, basically. That if I'm not positive all the time, if I'm not nice all the time, if I'm not, I don't know, funny, energetic all the time, intelligent, whatever, I am not worthy of anything. And again, you might feel like that is such an extreme thought, but I know that almost everyone has those extreme thoughts. But we don't necessarily listen to them in those extremities, in those extremes. For example, that core belief, that's like the root. What I just said is the root. The extreme thing is the root. And not everyone gets to the root. Let's take my example. My root core belief was that I wasn't good enough if I wasn't perfect, basically. Of course, rationally, this makes no sense. Perfection doesn't even exist. It doesn't even exist. In this world, there's actually no perfect square or circle. Everything's a little tiny bit imperfect. You know what I mean? Well, I knew that, but still, how was this core belief projected in my other thoughts and maybe in my actions? Well, for example, if I felt uncomfortable, I was like, okay, I would rather feel uncomfortable myself than make someone else uncomfortable by telling them, communicating that I'm feeling uncomfortable. So I'll just suck it up and I'll just make sure that everything is fine and I can deal with it. So I'll just, get it over with. That small decision of like, okay, I'm just gonna like try to be as nice as possible. Like, I don't want anything weird to happen, anything uncomfortable. So I'm just gonna let it happen. And And I don't mean in any extreme cases. I just mean like whatever. Imagine someone said a compliment, but it was like a backhanded compliment. So you're just like, yeah, yeah, whatever. Deep inside, that action was directly linked to that core belief of like, if I speak up, they might see me as like rude or I don't know, like bitchy. I don't know. And I would rather avoid that perception of myself being out there at all costs because it will ruin the expectation and image of myself that I've created that I need to live up to in every single person's lives that cross through mine. And you might think that's insane, but no, that's actually something that happens, but we don't question the root cause of it. We just let it happen. So, for example, growing up, I was in a really long term relationship, really, really young. I had my first relationship when I was 13, going to 14, like 14. And that lasted 7 years. And that formed a big part of my brain and a big part of this perception because of the dynamic that we fell into, but also the standard that I created for myself through that relationship. Even in my first like friendship, these were happening at the same time, both with people that had really strong senses of self and I didn't. So I would fall in whatever they told me that was cool, correct, or if they would say like, that's stupid. What you're saying is stupid. Or like, why would you do that? Or like, why are you wearing that? Don't wear that. Like, wear this. Like, this person looks amazing, actually. And I'll be like, okay, I need to look like that person. So I would just like mold myself to gain that validation that I was being perfect by being exactly who they wanted me to be. And that turned out to be my interaction with everyone. And I was never like a yes man where like you would tell me like, oh, I like this yellow. And I'm like, I don't. And they're like, no, I actually like it. I actually don't like it, whatever. And I'm like, wait, I said it wrong. Imagine someone says like, bro, I love pollen spring. And I'll be like, oh, I love that too. And they're like, actually, I don't like it. And I'll be like, actually, I don't like it either. I would do that when I was a kid. And then it started like diluting. And I just like never questioned what I liked or what I didn't. I just referred to whatever the closest people to me were liking. And I would fall into that. Because I thought maybe if they're with me and I'm with them, I need to like whatever they like. And maybe through there, I'll find who I am. And maybe I'm gonna still be considered this cool girlfriend or this cool best friend if I'm always on their good side and they're always like, yeah, you're the best. And that's feeding my ego and my core belief that I'm perfect. So I'm worthy of whatever they're giving me. Are you following? I hope so. With that example, what I'm trying to explain is that when you start living for indirectly for validation that does not come from within, you can fall in a pattern of seeking ways to get that external validation from other people by committing acts or talking in a certain way or thinking a certain way or following a trend. And then you start to lose your sense of self. And it's not because you are like, oh, I'm becoming this one person. No, it could happen by taking things from different people. The only mistake is not questioning yourself. Like, why do I why do I like this? Why do I want to like this? Do I really like this? It's okay to not like this, and why don't I like it? And those are some questions I never asked myself. I never asked myself, do I really not like my first boyfriend? He was the opposite of me. Like the opposite of me. Complete opposite. And he loved heavy metal. And I love salsa, I love reggaeton, I love all the Latin music in Spanish. He wouldn't listen to anything in Spanish. He would think some music in Spanish was actual trash, or whatever I liked was trash. So I started slowly hiding whenever I listened to music that he didn't like, because I didn't want him to have a different perception of me. Because if he thought I wasn't cool enough, then maybe someone else would be cool enough to be more perfect than me. But I know I have to be perfect. So I would try and like listen to heavy metal and make myself like it. And this was just because, and I didn't realize it until later, that it wasn't just to like, oh, I just want to be liked by him. No, it was just an outlet to get immediate gratification, immediate validation that I was being the best. I was being perfect. I was being so amazing. And I realized later it was all the ego. The ego that I created. The version of myself that I created. Let's say I look like this. Okay? And I told myself I want to look like this because this is who I aspire to be. I'm gonna like stretch this and mold this and break until I become this. But this is impossible to become this. It's impossible. Different material, different color, different object. You see, it's impossible. So our whole lives, we're constantly trying to mold ourselves to become this that is impossible to reach because we think we're the exception. Because the ego does something really funny, which is your mind says you're not special at all. You're so small, you're not special. Then the ego says you're actually so special. You know how special you are? That you're the only exception to perfection. You're the only exception that is not allowed to be imperfect. And that's why we have so much, like, we have high standards of ourselves, because we forget that we are special, but not in that way. Perfection does not exist. Perfection in nature does not exist. And it's not until you realize and you really like tattoo it in your brain that it doesn't exist that you stop trying to achieve it. And that sounds easy to do. Like, of course, nothing's perfect, so I can be imperfect and that's fine. No, because the mind, again, will go back to that core belief that you have to be so good and better than everyone else, and you're still not that, so you have to keep going. So you start acting or saying things thinking that you are bettering yourself, when sometimes what you're doing is just molding yourself or shoving down emotions in order to fit into this. And when you shove down so much for so long, emotions, thoughts, things you wanted to say, things you didn't like, that you didn't accept, you didn't like it. When you shove so much for so long, it stays there. It doesn't like just You don't just like shit it out like a digestive system. Like it's there. And what happens to it? To me, it's like, imagine inside of you, there's a room. And this room is beautiful, beautifully decorated however you like it. There's paintings, colors, carpets. And that's the inside of your being. When you shove down emotions or thoughts or things that you're afraid to say because you might make someone uncomfortable, or say something you not necessarily want to say, or maybe you do something thinking that this might be better, this might be cooler than whatever I thought I should do, or whatever it is. When you shove down emotions, feelings, traumas, things that have happened that you say like, dude, I'm just being stupid. Like there's people that are going way through it, way worse than I'm going through. So I'm just gonna shove it down. Like whatever. Like I'm fine. There's people suffering. I'm not. Well, everyone suffers. Not about the same things, but everyone feels the emotions in certain, like in the same degrees, in the same magnitudes, just in different ways. But everyone feels the same type of gamma of emotions. They don't change from person to person. One person's worst nightmare could be someone's day-to-day life. It's still their worst nightmare. It's still the worst they've had in their lives. To you, it's another day, but to them, it's still the worst they've had in their lives. So your worst day, even if it's worse than them, it's still the worst. You see? So when you start shoving down all of that, what happens to this room that you decorated inside of yourself? This being that you have? If it's a room, there's carpets. And when you shove down these things, they all go under the carpets. Why? Because you're throwing trash inside the room. And whenever you go to clean up the room, you don't clean. You're just like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. So I just throw it under the carpet, whatever. I'll deal with that later. That's when you know that there's something inside of you that you need to heal. But you're like, bro, I don't want to do all that right now. Or like, I'm fine. Like, I don't need help. Like, I'm going to be fine. It's under the carpet. What happens? 5 years later, 10 years later, a year later, you go check that room. It starts smelling stinky. Something smells like ass. And you're like, yo, what's going on? Suddenly, there's something foul. And you're starting to notice that things are falling. Things are looking like, it smells really bad. You don't know where the smell is coming from. And so you realize, you check under the carpet. And there's trash and shit all over the floor, under the carpets, but it's dry to the point that you have to go and like manually and scrape it out. With all that being said, what I mean with this analogy is that when you shove all those emotions down and you're hiding them, they're just hidden, they're not gone. So one day, these things are going to start resurfacing. It's going to start smelling bad. What does that happen? Well, you start acting weird. You start feeling depressed. You start lashing out. You start feeling anxiety. You start feeling OCD, PTSD, depression. And that's the bad smell that I've been telling you that's under the carpets. And how do you scrape out the bad smell and the shit that's underneath the carpet? Well, you heal. And when it's really, really like that much, you will need help. You can't clean all that shit by yourself. It's a lot. And everyone has this. And if you think you don't, it's because it's probably under your carpet and it doesn't smell bad yet. Or maybe it does smell, but you keep spraying Febreze and you light candles expecting that the odor might leave, but we can smell it. We can smell it right through you. And I feel like everyone deserves a clean room. And it's okay to have trash sometimes. It's okay to not clean every day. It's okay to, you know, to have some days where you just look at it and you don't feel proud of what it is, and it's okay. Because at the end of the day, it's what keeps you safe. It's your home. It's your temple. And that room is you. It's okay if sometimes you know that there's things that are not okay. There's some days that you don't have the energy to like take care of yourself or go out of the way and like do all these things. It's okay. But we always gotta come back to making sure this temple that is our inner beings, inner workings, are being taken care of and are being cleaned and are being helped. And it's okay to hire a helping hand. Therapy. I started going to therapy and that's what helped me. I thought I was going insane. I started smelling the shit under my carpet and I was like, what the fuck is going on? For months, I was waking up and crying. Everything was just a chaos every day inside of me. Like, I just woke up and immediately I was like, doom. Everything is doom. And I'm like, what is going on? And I hadn't realized I had so much shoved down that it was stinking up the room. And my body was feeling it. I didn't even realize I had it. My body just started behaving differently. My mind started behaving differently. Like I started even like having gastrointestinal issues, which apparently like the gut releases 90% of the serotonin in your body. And if your gut is fucked up, serotonin is fucked up and vice versa. And I was going through that too. It's not a coincidence. And it was all because for so many years, I told myself that I was the only exception to being perfect. That I had to always be perfect. I had to always say the best things. I had to always look the best. I had to always try to be the best person I could. I always had to try and go out of my way to prove to myself or even to the person next to me that I was exactly who I wanted to be. That I had everyone had a positive perception of me. No one hated me. No one dislikes me. I need everyone to like me, and I need to feel good. I need to feel like I'm the only exception. And that's not a standard that even nature itself holds. There are no perfect edges in nature. There are no perfect lines in nature. None. Then why do we think it's natural to achieve perfection? Because again, a friend could be telling me this. I'm like, you don't have to be perfect. Perfect does not exist. Then I say to myself, I'm like, no, you have to be perfect. What the fuck? You're the only one that has to be perfect. What are you doing? Like, why do we treat ourselves like that? And I know that maybe like chemically, it's our brains like in survival mode trying to push us to like overcome and like go at it and grow every day. But it gets to a point where like you can't let your mind control your day to day because your mind has the ego and the ego by itself is destructive. The moment I dropped the thought of trying to be perfect, honestly hasn't come. I gotta be honest. I'm still in the process of it. Still in the process of accepting that it's okay to make mistakes, to say you don't like something, to like something that people not necessarily like, to express uncomfortable emotions, to communicate uncomfortable emotions. Um, I learned that. My ego died when I genuinely didn't know how to act like who I thought I was. I woke up one day and I used to tell myself I am extremely patient and I'm extremely um like calm and I'm like, level headed, I am easygoing, I'm that type of person. I'm always positive. I'm always energetic. I'm always happy. I'm the smiley happy girl. The moment I woke up and I just like generally didn't remember how I used to do it was the moment I realized something had switched and changed in me. And that was the day my ego died. That was the day that I realized, like, am I even that person? Did I just construct a version of myself that I can't even fulfill? Then who have I been? Who am I right now? Who do I want to be? And as I was asking those questions, every day was torment. Every day was thunderstorm after thunderstorm, after destruction inside of me. Hormones were going crazy. Serotonin was in the floor. I couldn't act like myself at all. And I was starting to wonder, is this who I always been and I didn't know? And why did that happen? Because when I was growing up, I didn't allow myself to feel certain emotions or feel or being even like get to the point where you ask yourself, like, who am I in these situations? For example, who am I when a car breaks down and it's raining outside and I need to seek help? Because of perfection, I wouldn't allow myself to even have that scenario. I'll be like, I'll avoid any failures, I'll avoid any mistakes, I'll avoid any anything that requires asking for help because I can't do it by myself and I need to do everything by myself because I'm perfect. So I would like force myself to get straight A's, to always be like the best student. I'll force myself to like be the best in every extracurricular activity that I had. I forced myself to like always be jolly, always talk to everyone and try to make the most people laugh. Like everything had to be like here. But I didn't allow myself to make mistakes. I didn't allow myself to even learn how to get negative criticism because I was like, I need to be such a try hard that no one can find mistakes here. I need to go above and beyond. So, growing up, surprisingly, I never experienced what it was to receive like really negative criticism or failure, like real failure, where you like put so much expectation on this and like it just didn't turn out how you want it. There are so many ways in which I avoided mistakes because I was afraid of the negative, like not receiving validation, just like negative criticism, that I avoided any scenario close to that. And I never learned who I was in those moments. And it's interesting to think about that. I never knew who I was in arguments. I never allowed myself to get in arguments because I was like, if I argue, I'm a bad friend or girlfriend, so I'll just rather say that they're right and just like forgive them. So I never knew who I was in arguments. I never knew who I was angry. I never knew who I was when I made mistakes. I just knew who I was when I felt success, when I felt like I won, when I felt like I did it again. So one day, when I turned 25 and my frontal lobe developed that year, I woke up and I started feeling a lot of, doubt about myself. I'm like, what am I doing? Questioning, who am I? What am I doing? What do I want to do? Where am I? I feel like a failure. I don't know how to deal with failure. I don't know how to deal with criticism. I got my first constructive criticism that was harsh and completely destroyed me for days. And I couldn't understand why, because like I know exactly what this person means, but it just struck me. Why? I didn't know how to handle it. Why? Because I had never experienced it before. So I never gathered the tools to be able to experience it later in life. I never answered to the question, who am I when? Because I was always trying to be perfect enough to never have to go through those moments in life. And that's impossible. It's impossible to avoid certain emotions. It's impossible to avoid negative emotions. It will always happen, and everyone in their lives will go through all emotions and maybe all situations that involve emotions, all those emotions, because we need them. We need experiences, whether good or bad, that can allow us to answer, who am I when? In the most specific ways. Who am I when I've had a day where I have 7,000 small inconveniences and the weather's bad? Am I like a rage monster that just like screams at everyone and like rue this day, everyone? Or am I this person that I'm just like laughing at myself and like looking up, being like, who's testing me? And just like trying to like find the best out of the situation. And it wasn't until I actually lived through those moments that I was able to practice who I wanted to be. And during my ego death, I went through these moments and I didn't know how to act. I went through my first real argument with someone I loved. And I didn't know how to feel anger without like exploding or crying or like not understanding what was going on inside of me. I didn't know how to feel frustration. Not but like frustration. I didn't know how to feel, how to be in my body when I feel like I failed without crumbling into pieces. I didn't even know how to be confident because I had never been truly confident in myself. I was just confident in the validation that others gave me. You know what I mean? So when I was going through these moments at the ripe age of 25, 26, it was like someone going through these moments when they were 14, 15, 17, because I had never lived through them. So it's like my mind was literally 14 again, living through these things that I was supposed to have lived already in order to, at 26, know exactly how I don't want to be and how I want to be. So I was at 26 acting and thinking in ways that I had never before because I had never lived through them. But I was also not proud of how I was acting or how I was thinking because I had never lived through them. But that doesn't mean that's me. That doesn't mean I don't know how to handle emotions. That just means I literally didn't have experience in that situation. I didn't even have experience to know how to handle the situation. So why would I blame myself for not knowing? I basically went from an extreme to the other, never having lived this to living this and like not knowing how to handle it and like going insane inside and out. And after an ego death, after it goes to ashes, you are born again. There's a renaissance. There's a rebirth. Why? Because you lived through so many things that you had to live through in such a small amount of time. You got so much information in such a small amount of time. You realize that you've been missing such a big parts of your life that you didn't realize you had. That your inner workings just shatter, and then your job is to put it back up into pieces. And that's why people sometimes go through sudden depression or all these things that I mentioned before, because the body is like self-destructing itself in order to rise again. It's how snakes shed skin to get new ones. We shed all of that. And it looks like we died. Like the skin of a snake looks like it's like a dead corpse there, but it's not a carcass. It's just like what they shed. And they have new skin. And that's what happens to the ego. And now I'm in a period where I've been able to answer those questions that I hadn't been able to answer before. I answered who I am when I'm in arguments. Who am I when I receive harsh criticism? Who am I when I'm having a day full of inconveniences back to back? Who am I when I'm sad and I need to be there for someone else who's sad and needs me? I learned who I am when I feel uncomfortable and I have to communicate it. Who am I when I feel like boundaries have been crossed and I need to communicate it? All these things that I was always trying to avoid came to bite my ass. But I'm glad they did, because now I'm able to answer to those questions. And not in a way of like, I guess I am this, or I guess this is who I would be. But like, no, I am this. Now I am this. Before I wasn't. Now I know, and I know how I want to be. I know how I want to be when this happens. Next time it happens, I'll try to be more like this. And that's how you reconstruct your ego. How you truly heal those parts of yourself that actually needed work. And you're just not trashing them or hiding them under the carpet. You're cleaning. You're metabolizing. I was really scared for a while. I was scared of who I was being in those moments. I asked myself if I was that. Then I realized I had to live through them in order to realize that I didn't have the tools to live through them, to be able to then find them and apply them, and there construct who I actually want to be, and not let my mind or my ego, my emotions choose that for me. And I learned this thing in therapy called the emotional process. And it's so interesting because this helps you understand the tools in order to clean inside or to heal inside or to respond accordingly to whoever you want to be. And I'm going to give you this information because this is what basically helped me like bring my ego back to life. Not even like having it being born again. The process of emotions, when they go from external to internal and then back to external, has specific steps. And it starts with an event, a prompting event, something that happens. Let's say someone said, like, I don't like, oh, I don't like the color on you. I don't know. Then comes the interpretation phase. Interpretation is where all your core beliefs live, where every memory lives, where whatever is in your mind that's a fact, that are valid yet not real, live. So you would say, okay, they just said this color doesn't look good on me, therefore they just think I'm ugly or they don't like the way I dress. Because they don't like this color on me, they don't like the way I dress, so I don't dress well, and they know more than me in that sense because then I don't dress well, and whatever. Let's say when you were a kid, you were made fun of because of how you dressed, but then you grew up to like be like, I don't care, I'm gonna dress however I want. Then the moment someone says like, I don't like that color, and you points out something that might go straight to the root, which is that core belief that got implanted in your brain when you were a kid because of the bullying, that you just don't dress well. And that becomes real again. And that happens in like a microsecond. So I don't like I don't like that color on you, prompting event. Interpretation. You search all your database and you're like, they definitely mean that I just don't dress well. Because that's what I believed when I was a kid when they were bullying me. So that's exactly where it's coming from again. It's coming again. It's coming up again. It's coming up again. Fuck, 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 fuck. Alert, alert, alert. It's coming up again. 3, changes in your body. That's when you're like, you can't even control it. It's like, you're like this. And they're like, I don't like that color on you. You're like, just that small thing. Either your jaw tenses up or you look another way or your eyes like open a little bit more. Something changes. Then comes the impulse, which is like a reaction. So immediately we're like, for example, let's say my impulse comes from, let's say, if it's shame, usually shame leads an impulse of like hiding or avoiding. If it makes you sad, you tend to isolate or withdraw. If you feel an urge, you just attack and argue or escape. Like, it's urges. Let's say in this sense, when you feel attacked, you attack back. And your impulse, your interpretation of it, your impulse because you feel attacked because of that interpretation that led to that core belief when you were a kid because of whatever their comment they said, leads you to impulsively say something back because you understand that whenever you feel attacked and you attack someone back, they might feel worse and you might feel better. So you are avoiding the feeling of shame. So I'm going to attack. I'm going to say, I don't like that color on you either. immediately, instead of sitting with that uncomfortable feeling of remembering or maybe feeling like a kid again, where you've been basically told that you don't dress well when it's not real, but like with that uncomfortable feeling in you that someone said something you not necessarily like, instead of sitting with it and metabolizing for a second and thinking rationally, you're like, I'm gonna react. Because I remember that when I attack, I just don't feel uncomfortable. So you tend to react and you attack. And that's how your brain trains your emotional and cognitive responses. After the impulse, there's the emotion, specific emotion, which is, let's say, maybe shame. You feel shame because you remember the moment deep down when you felt shame about this specific topic. And the root cause is when you were a child and you were being bullied because of how you dressed. And now when someone mentions something negative about how you're dressed, you're going to feel that shame you felt. And how do you avoid feeling shame? By attacking verbally. And since I attack verbally, my mind learns that when I attack, I don't feel shame. So I'll attack every time. And then come the after effects. How you see, how your perception changes after this. So, like, maybe I still don't dress well. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I suck as a person. Maybe what I said when I attacked them wasn't right. Maybe I'm actually the worst person ever. I shouldn't have said that. Like, and that's the process that happens every time you feel something. Every time. Every time. And if you're able to interrupt it in any of those phases, you're able to gain control of your emotions. For example, let's say under my carpet, let's go back to the analogy of like my being is a room. Under my carpet, one of the pieces of goo that it's under the carpet is that moment in my childhood where they were bullying me because I didn't know how to dress or they made fun of my funky outfits. And I remember I felt shame, but I shoved it down because I'm like, I'm grown, I'm fine, I'm confident. The affirmations, I'm confident, I'm beautiful, I look great, I'm sexy. So I'm shove it under the carpet. That's how you would react. That's how someone who shoves emotions might react. Because you're thinking with your emotional mind, not your rational or your wise mind. Because there are three minds: rational, emotional, and the wise mind. The wise mind sees everything, sees both sides, and knows exactly how to go about it. Emotional thinks and feelings. Rational thinks point A to point B, task driven, don't care about emotions. In this case, in this event, when you attacked someone because you didn't want to feel shame, so you attack. Oh, I attack when I feel attacked. I attack. There is something there that definitely hasn't been healed. That's how you can tell if someone feels attacked. Either they attack back, or they close out, or they avoid, or they hide, or whatever. You know there's still shit under that carpet. How do you clean that carpet, or can you tell if someone doesn't have shit under their carpet? At least in that topic. Well, I'll walk you through the same situation with someone who, let's say, you healed that trauma of being laughed at because of how you were dressed when you were a kid. Someone says, I don't like that color in you. Your interpretation is, I remember that when I was a kid, people used to make fun of my outfits. But I honestly really loved my outfits, and I've always loved them. And this person that's telling me this is my friend, and they wouldn't tell me something to hurt me. They're maybe suggesting that, or helping me see myself in a different way and maybe make myself look better with their suggestion that maybe this color doesn't look good on me. Or maybe it's just their opinion, and honestly, like, I like it on me, so it's fine. Anyone can have opinions, it's subjective. That is how a wise mind would interpret that prompting event of that comment. And the change in my body would just be like, why do you think so? That's my impulse. Instead of attacking, I'm questioning. Oh, why do you think so? And then instead of my emotion being shame, I metabolized or interrupted that emotional process into, wait, I just want to keep questioning. Maybe what? Why? See it in a rational way. Is it worth fighting with this person? Is it worth just like, okay, bye, and like ignoring this person? Or do I actually respect this person's opinions and I want to know more about it? So I choose, instead of feeling attacked, to question. Oh, what do you think? No, I feel like you have great, beautiful, like green undertones in your skin, and I feel like a lighter shade of this will my favorite more. Oh, that's actually a really good tip. Thank you. I'll definitely take it into consideration. Boom. End of event. Or maybe like, oh, that's really interesting. I actually really like it on me, but he's like, okay, fine. Either way, you look great. End of event. You see those three cases? One was definitely thinking with their emotional mind. With the carpet full of shit underneath. The other one is someone that cleaned that part of the carpet, metabolized it, and was able to think through their emotions and think, who am I when I receive criticism and I feel shame? Do I attack people? Or do I question and I learn and I still accept myself as I am and I agree or might not agree? And that's called the emotional process if you want to look it up online. Uh, but that technique or that explanation helped me understand that my emotions, my ego didn't control me. I control it. I'm able to take it, like take advantage of it. And once I learned that I could do this, and I'm able to construct the version of myself that I want without forcing myself to inauthentically be perfect because it doesn't exist. I'm able to bring my ego to life in a beautiful light. I was able to go back out in the world and question more and feel more confident in my choices, listen to people's criticism and like take advantage of that to get into more respectful arguments and debates and more transparent communication. And sometimes nothing big has to happen for your ego to die. Sometimes it's just a recollection of things that resurface after something happens, or maybe just wake up one day and they resurface. And it's so scary, but it's okay. Because in the moment, it feels like you're gonna die because so a part of you is dying. But it's just like the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. It's even in nature. It is natural. Ego deaths are a thing, but I would like to change it more to an ego birth because that was what it was. And I'm happy that I went through it and I was able to put a name to it. And there's a video that actually taught me what it was, and I'm gonna link it in the description and here. I don't know. So you could watch it and listen to like the phases of the ego death, and it's so interesting. Um, but I feel like this was necessary for me to become the person that I want to become, and that in order to get the blessings that I know I'm aimed to have, I had to go through all these moments and ask myself who I was in order to receive the size of the blessing that I'm going to get. Because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have been able to go through and receive the things that I'm going to receive in the future. So if you're going through an ego death right now, or feel like anything that I said resonates with you, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There always is. I used to feel like there wasn't, and it was scary for a second. But there is. And it's beautiful. And I can say that I'm proud of myself. And I can say that I'm proud to have overcome that. And I'm still going through it. I'm still in therapy. I'm still taking care of myself. Some days are tough. But I'm happy to say that every day I'm closer to the version of myself that I want to become. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening if you're here. And I just want you to know that this is more common than you think, and you will get through it. And the bad is the good that we still don't know how to comprehend. The bad is the good that we still don't know how to comprehend. And it definitely is really good. Renaissance is amazing. I'm not talking about the Beyonce album, but I've heard it's amazing too. But, anyways, thank you for listening. I love you. Thank you for being here. Un beso. Ciao, ciao.